Welcome to the John Cady podcast. I'm John Cady, U.S. Navy retired, former minister. I haven't done a podcast in several weeks. There was a very good reason why. Every year at around this time, the seasonal allergies hit, and when the seasonal allergies hit, causes my sinuses to go haywire, and as a result, my voice gets shot as well. With shot vocal cords and constant sinus issues, it just wasn't a good idea to try to do podcasts until it cleared up. I've kept busy with doing short form videos. Posted a short video which was meant to be a live feed, but now I've seen that some of the platforms are restricting live feeds for only those people who have large numbers of followers. Being a small content creator, that just is no longer an option that I have available. And I was looking for a topic tonight to start a new podcast, and one just landed in my lap, quite almost literally. As I was scrolling through Facebook, a friend of mine I knew from the Baltimore area named Sheila Gary posted a news link that announced the East Point Mall in Baltimore, it's a Dundalk district, is closing its doors after 70 years. That brings back a lot of memories of my time there. I lived in Baltimore from 2006 to 2020. I went to the East Point Mall by myself and with others on numerous occasions. One of my favorite places to eat was the old Applebee's that used to be there until they relocated to the White Marsh Mall. There were other shops nearby, and I was able to enjoy myself and not have to do a whole lot of driving out of the way to get somewhere. But why did the East Point Mall find itself in this position? We'll start by looking at the news release, and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to share pretty much word for word what it has to say. The impact and store status. According to the news release, East Point Mall will be closing its doors for good on the 31st of August. What does this mean for relocation? Many longtime tenants and specialty shop owners expressed frustration over the sudden notice, which made securing new spaces and liquidating inventory difficult. Anchor stores. Major anchors and tenants such as J.C. Penney, Gabe's, and Burlington Coat Factory either have already relocated to surrounding retail strips or are in the process of doing so. Future plans. While exact redevelopment plans have not been officially confirmed by MCB Real Estate, local county officials have monitored the transition, and residents speculate the site could be used for warehouses or a redesigned strip mall. Any way you look at it, it's the end of an era. And why is the East Point Mall closing? We have to go back in time, and I can share this from my own experiences. Even when I was growing up in Fairmont, West Virginia, going to the mall was a ritual. It was a fun time to be had, either by yourself or with family and friends. And it was not just, the shopping aspect, but there was a social aspect of it as well. There were restaurants, there were video arcades, movie theaters. The mall was like a nexus for the community to gather. But as times changed, people began shopping more online, going for home delivery. The appeal of the mall started to fade. In Baltimore, it became an additional problem in the late 2010s. This was shortly before I left, and I even wrote to the East Point Mall about this, as they were having problems with young people, in particular teenagers, causing havoc and committing disturbances and even acts of vandalism on the mall grounds and the mall property. Events would take place on mall property that ended up getting out of control. Law enforcement had to get involved. One suggestion that I made was to establish a curfew to limit the amount of time that teenagers could hang out at the East Point Mall so they would be less likely to be hanging around and causing disturbances. Whether they followed through on that suggestion or had some version of it, I'll never know, because I submitted this around 2019 and I left Baltimore a year later to move to Oklahoma. But anyway, you look at it, over the years, the mall has become a less appealing place for public gatherings. I've even seen it here in Bartlesville. The mall in Washington Park is having a lot of struggles. Probably the single biggest moneymaker at the Washington Park Mall now, and has been for some time, is Dunham Sports and the movie theater. If you took either one of those out, the mall would completely collapse and close. A lot of the small shops there, specialty shops, restaurants, have been struggling to draw any kind of business. For several years, they even had a church there that held services at the mall, and they relocated at the early part of this year. Times have changed, and people's shopping habits have changed. And the mall has basically become a less attractive option than it was when I was a young man, and people just don't go there anymore. Looking at the future of East Point, one has to wonder, though, what's going to happen to it. Are they actually going to be able to successfully repurpose the property as they've announced here, as far as turning it into an expanded strip mall, combination of a strip mall and warehouse complexes? Or, as I've seen in other parts of Baltimore where they had shopping centers, a lot of these buildings were left vacant and left to rot, becoming eyesores in the community that nobody wants to invest in, nobody wants to have the money to renovate or replace, and the city doesn't have the capital to even demolish the buildings, so they just sit there, become eyesores that nobody wants to deal with. You've got that. It's an uncertain future for the East Point Mall, but at the same time, the last thing Baltimore needs to see is another shopping center turn into a nasty eyesore that's going to end up with crumbling infrastructure, rats all over the place, and nobody needs that. And especially, hideouts for the seedier underbelly of the city that's going to be looking for places to hide and conduct their illegal activities. This is John Cady. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed the content, hit like, hit subscribe. Looking forward to you on the next episode.